Four, three, two, one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's episode 0 of TechHeads. I'm Victor Dubbeld. Each week, I'll be joined by my good friend and former coworker,
Anna Ausek. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I am a software developer and computer science student.
along with occasional guests. It's 2021, the most tech-saturated time in history, so there's quite a bit to unpack. Let's explore the current landscape with our friends. Lots of good fun and lots to learn. This is TechHeads.
How you all feel tonight?
Let's get started.
I'm just losing my mind, that's all.
I didn't know I could feel like that.
All night long?
Well, that's excellent.
Well, Anna, if I may, I would like to be the first to say welcome and thank you for doing this show with me.
Thank you, Victor. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to get this started. Starting I think 2021 on the right foot by basically like new beginnings all around. New job, new. I think like this talk series and just learning new things in general. It's nice to I think get this year started with good plans after everything. I think it got to a halt last year. I think everybody's lives was affected by everything that happened. So it's it's a good idea, and I'm pretty excited to join in.
Well, great. Let me first say that we should acknowledge the elephant in the room. So, as I mentioned earlier, I said former coworkers. So, Can you kind of walk us through that? Tell us why we're former coworkers. Did I just up and leave? Do we have this sour history? Like, what's going on?
No, yeah, definitely. So I think, even before we became coworkers, I was at this company since the end of 2017. 2 years into the job, I think you definitely impressed us, and you became a part of the team. We worked well together through last year, which was a challenge for everybody. But despite the transition that we had, going from face to face to you, who eventually relocated and went on full remote, we were able to work quite nicely. And for me, it was just mainly wanting a change. I am pursuing computer science academically, and I just wanted something more aligned with that to complement, my academic goals. I wanted something, that would basically propel my, idea, my objective to become a software developer. And, the job just wasn't offering me that opportunity. So I just wanted a change. Obviously, nothing related to you personally. I think you're an amazing person. It's that's the reason why we're doing this on our own time. Is because I enjoy your company and learning from you and talking to you. But yeah, just a new challenge. I think a job is a job, and I kind of am looking more for a career builder than anything. So this is just a new start for me, and hopefully, great things are coming your way as well.
Well, I could not have summed that up any better. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about what this is exactly? I can go first since I've been just kind of handing it over to you every time. So we're just going to talk about what we think this podcast is, because we don't really know.
Yeah.
But I think we both have our little ideas in mind of what this could be. So I imagine that this is a general tech podcast where we cover everything sort of tech related, from web development, data, cryptocurrency, because I want to touch on that as well. I know you do too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Video games, because we always talk about video games. I also want to just talk about, I want to help others who probably aren't in the tech industry yet and would like to, dip their toes at least into it. So I want to, get people aware of, how the job searching sort of challenge, I guess we can call it, plays out. How you can get started in coding, even soft skills, because that's pretty valuable too. I also want to just talk to other people, whether they're professionals or not. I want to get to know their perspectives on certain topics and, get some helpful hints from them, because, I'm sure we could use it too, as we are very average people in the tech industry, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe not you. You're way up there, but
oh no,
I'm
no
a
way.
mere duckling in this.
I appreciate the praise, but I'm still pretty low ranking.
Well, we do have our, sort of strong suits, I would say, whether they're, expert level or not. But I guess my question for you, which you kind of already answered, but I would like to know why you want to pod with me.
Well, I think, going back to the fact that we worked for, a little over a year together, and especially in a remote environment that, we were dealing with. Communication was something that we noticed, I think, a couple of months into how we were probably undermining the importance of it because we didn't have the in-person element, So I think that's where it really, showed itself to me how we were learning to communicate more and more. And we had our daily, Zoom calls, and we're working together alongside despite being, far away physically. It's something that I think it taught me a lot about how we were, learning how to convey ideas, verbally. So I learned that I think we communicate very well. And, we talked about work, but then we also talked about other things going on in life. And, the whole purpose of the podcast is like bringing tech into the conversation. So that was something that we very much did while working. So I thought that this was a very good idea because I've always wanted to, I think, expand and enhance my skills by talking to other people, sharing ideas rather than just reading it, because that's a one-way street. When you read information, you're just the one being fed something. You can't really, I think, question things, or you don't have someone directly to question, what their opinion is all about. So by having, a conversation, it's not a monologue. You have some feedback right away. So I think that that's the one thing that, appeals to me the most by having a podcast, with a co-host is the idea of being able to discuss those things that we put on the doc. It's like it's really up to us. Whatever comes to mind, we can debate it. Or with tech, we can just share new releases, new things that are coming out, or that already did, and how we feel about it. So that's pretty much my take on it, I think.
Well, I think we both kind of realized it a few months into me being remote that our daily Zoom sessions they were already podcasts.
Yeah, that's true.
There's been so much quality content that is not recorded. And it's so disappointing. And I also think that another part of me that wanted to do this is because I'm such a creature of habit that I can't even imagine not continuing what I've been doing for 6 months, which is, Zooming you every weekday. And I think it's really interesting that it's only been a week, since
I
we
know.
haven't, since you've moved on to much bigger and better things. But even the whole week, I was just like itching because I just couldn't understand this new process in my daily schedule. It's like,
Yeah.
man, it's missing this huge chunk, and I don't know what it is. And I'm like, oh, well, obviously it's because I'm not talking to Anna right now, which is crazy. So
Yeah.
I think it's great that this will allow us to continue doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to go into why I kind of want to start doing podcasts.
Yeah.
For this one in particular, I think I mean, I already went into what I want to talk about with you, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the big reasons why is because I think that doing this, it's not forcing me, but it kind of holds me accountable to stay up to date in current tech news and learn certain topics before recording so that I can thoroughly go over it with you or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
and just avoid burnout because I know with work we very often we get sick of what we're doing because work will stress you out and you're not particularly stoked on the thing that you should be, which is having a great job.
Yeah.
So I think this is some sort of like therapeutic way to maybe blow off some of that steam and things that are aggravating us at work and certain bugs that we've come across and
Mm-hmm.
failed projects. I also just think that something like this would be a great source for someone to learn more, because I think that there aren't that many podcasts out there with a low barrier for entry. It seems
Right.
that a lot of the tech, sided ones are. It seems that they, of course, they're in the middle of doing this podcast, but it also seems that if you're not already in the tech industry, you
Mm-hmm.
are just completely confused the entire time.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to, I don't know, I didn't see a podcast where it like takes it down a notch and just kind of allows anybody to listen, whether they're in tech or not.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I remember even going back to the boot camp, that I did in 2017, that was pretty much the the division in my professional career, because I up to that point I have been, in healthcare, and then once I decided that I wanted to pursue a different career and do a full 180, it was, joining the boot camp. And some of the guys there recommended a couple of podcasts that are very, very good. But at that point, as a beginner, or not even, because I was just learning about web development, it was quite overwhelming. I mean, I didn't know what they were talking about other than a few, very general names of, or HTML, CSS, like a few things that I had just been learning at the boot camp. Like when you talk about recursion, I mean, I was like, what the is that? I couldn't even follow along, So it's a very good point to make, that I think for juniors, or for people who are even, I think, considering, a transition from a different career to tech, or, computer science and software engineering, it can be like overwhelming to find something that resonates with them on the level that they could even try to comprehend without having, I think a software developer dictionary, right? When they're listening to it, because just the vernacular, the lexicon is just, it's insane. I mean, there are things that I still struggle to understand, obviously, or haven't heard of, but yeah, we're definitely, I think, trying to make this one into something that can feel, that can welcome, people who are an entry level, or like I said, considering, joining the community, or just wanting to dip their toes into it, so they can, explore more on their own without overwhelming them with too much information or something that, would just be like, no, yeah, that's way above my, I think my skill set at the time. So we'll keep it simple. The whole KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Classic. Yeah. I mean, couldn't agree more. I actually want to go back to something you said.
Mhm.
So you said that you decided to do this 180 in your career.
Mhm.
I actually want to take it a little bit back for you. So I want you to tell me what, I mean, tech is a very broad term, right? As
Yeah.
our show right now, it's called TechHeads,
Uh-huh.
which is subject to change. However, I do think that the term tech, it can apply to basically anything. Back in, colonial days, technology was
Mhm.
a light bulb.
Yeah.
Today, you don't really think about it like that. But
Mhm.
I want you to tell me I guess the first time that you were not exposed to technology, because, we are people of the first world who only use
Yeah.
technology, but something
Right.
that kind of impacted how you see technology and what, I guess it should be a point where you decided that you wanted to learn more about a particular um, topic within technology. So let's say
Mhm.
the first time you saw a video game, you're like, I need to
Mhm.
see how the heck they built that. Or if you did see, if you logged onto a social media site for the first time and you're like, oh my gosh, like
Mhm.
this doesn't even like compute to me. I need to know how they
Yeah.
built this. So why don't you tell us exactly what got your interest in tech in general? Because we
It's
all
very
have we
funny.
all have our nerd origin stories, right?
Of course, yeah.
Mhm.
It's a rite of passage, I think, for a geek.
Right.
I think back in MySpace days, it's funny because we used to customize the page by using um, like HTML and CSS, I think it was, or maybe even some JavaScript in there that you had to like physically, go to a site where they gave you the template, copy everything over, and then paste it into your MySpace editor page or whatever it was. So that is one thing that I remember. But I think the real thing that really triggered my real interest in technology to the point that I eventually, started it out by doing couple of like tutorials and then the boot camp, and then it's been like history since then. Was back in 2014. I was at university working on my biotechnology degree, and I had to take a class called quantitative biological methods or something or other. Basically, it was like a wide array of bio assays and experimental methods that you can, perform when you're analyzing genetic material, DNA, RNA, that kind of stuff. So there was a module that we started talking about bioinformatics, and I was like, well, I've never heard of bioinformatics. What is that? So basically, we had to work with like a DNA database of some sorts, and it was like actual statistical analysis on DNA. But then I found out that like in order to do all of that, there was a lot of programming that was done, and Python was, like the main language to work with bioinformatics. So I briefly looked into, getting a bioinformatics minor while I was, getting my major. But I was too far into the degree. I already had, the rest of my classes planned out. It was going to take a while for me to graduate in advance to what I had planned. So it didn't really work out for me. But after I graduated, I went on to take a couple of those tutorials on Code Academy, build a few little things, like a few little apps here and there with Python, and I thought that it was very, very cool. So that is definitely, I think, the one, like the moment back in 2014 that planted the seed for me. It still took a while, for me to, from that point on, to eventually finding the boot camp, because I don't think that in 2014 it was still as big. It probably was like a year or two after that that boot camp started popping up. And then, I eventually found the one that worked out for me. And yeah, I mean, it was, the best decision that I've ever made, because I very much like, this working in this industry, and it is very fast paced. Yes, you can get burned out, but I mean, it's just the fact that I like learning. I am now back to getting my second degree because I wanted to have the foundation to be able to excel in, my profession. But it's also out of interest. I mean, no one is forcing me to do any of this. So it's, I think it's the one, the definitely the best decision that I've made was to follow through with that initial curiosity, because that's what it was. And then it has, turned into something that has affected my life profoundly. I've met amazing people. Like now, Victor and I, we're good friends. We're working on this together, and it's out of, pure passion, really, because I just find it very cool that we can continuously learn and excel at things, and experience, like things that I could only dream of, having a new job where I'll have the opportunity to keep applying what I learn. And yeah, it's just like the opportunities really are endless. So I think that this is kind of like the message that goes out to anyone that would hear this, that it's difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy at all. But it's, if you're, contemplating a life change, you're unsatisfied with your current career, you're standing or whatever, and you want to try something new. I mean, I recommend this to everybody. I did it 2 weeks ago when I went out to have dinner with a few friends, because I have a friend that was pretty much on the same path as I. He's actually finished pharmacy school, but he said that he doesn't like it, and I was on the same path. I'm so glad that I kind of like broke out of that, because it just, I didn't want to turn out like, unfortunately, he is now. And I told him, I was like, well, take a look, if you have any questions, if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know, because that is, I've gone through from it from the beginning, like from like an intensive boot camp, and then now to getting my degree, and going through a couple of jobs. I would love to share my experiences like in this podcast, but it's, yeah, I mean, it was definitely back in, 6 to 7 years ago now that everything kind of started. And, it took my time. There was, I think, a little bit of resistance there in the beginning, but it's been the, like the right decision. So I'm very happy about that.
Mm-hmm. I would say,
yeah. How about for you? Tell
yes,
me.
I mean, it must have been around the same time as you, I guess, but because I must have been a sophomore or junior in high school, where that was my first time genuinely coding by myself. And before that, the last thing I had ever done in terms of web development was probably maybe when I was in 5th or 6th grade, playing around with Dreamweaver, because I wanted a portfolio site to showcase my incredible skateboarding skills with some very pixelated pictures, and just have a place to upload images, as Instagram was not a thing yet. And I was, my demo was strictly 14 to 16-year-old skateboarding heads. And I wanted a portal for everyone to kind of be able to just go on and see some of their footage that they had done that day, and then be able to download it and, do whatever they want with it, frame it, make their own video, whatever. So growing up, I was always into filmography, So surfing, skateboarding, I would always film people. They would film me. I loved making videos. And I was also like just really into playing video games. So that would be where I guess my nerdiness originates. So then in high school, I took this class where we did some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and it was for anybody. You didn't have to know anything before that. It just kind of helped. So after that class, I would ask my teacher more and more questions every single day after class, and I would be late to my next class. So after that, I was like, man, this class, doesn't offer enough for what I want to learn. So I'm going to have to do something about that and learn about more of it on my own. But then I got distracted just because of the whole college search and application process, junior, senior year, getting, into the school that you want to. Senior year itself is already, it's pretty much crazy for everybody. So once I got into college, I was in a computational mathematics program where there was very minimal coding, if any. I took a couple classes where we used not Python, but we used R, and another class where we used C. And those classes were, genuinely hard because one of them involved having to use Calculus 3, and it was crazy hard for my brain to understand most of the time, but I loved how hard it was because it made me have to kind of dive deeper into it once I was even done doing a homework assignment, just to get a full conceptual understanding of what I just learned, because I could never I don't know, I was usually pretty bad at kind of connecting other essential topics to actually make it all make sense. So I would have to go on YouTube and watch other people explain it, or I would have to see how this relates to something I already do understand. So once I got into the habit of doing that, that's when I started to get my own interests within, the software engineering world, where I wanted to look up if someone has already done, I don't know, like I can't even think of anything at all. I mean, let's just say like a self-driving car for ease of, example. Looking up how people have coded their own version of the self-driving car, and seeing how I can do my own little demo version of that, which obviously I've never done. Otherwise, I would be, frankly, not talking to you right now. I'd be so rich. I wouldn't have time for you. Just kidding. But it kind of sneaks up on you that you develop your own interest in something that is genuinely difficult, no matter what it is, biotech, like you were originally headed towards. And if you're really into painting, I'm sure going to school for painting sometimes sucks because people are making you do things you don't want to do, but I'm sure you're still learning a lot. I just kind of just started liking it, and I think it always was there, just not the knowledge. It was just the interest, and I think that's all it takes to actually get into potentially doing something professionally that makes you happy. And for me, that's just being in tech.
Well, no, that's great what you just said. Like all it takes is, the interest and not just the knowledge. Because if you are like genuinely interested in something, you can pursue it as deep as you want, and that goes for anything really. Because I still have my hobbies aside from tech. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a geologist, and I love, like reading about those things. But so the interest is there. It's just whether like I have the, like, it's turned into a hobby, not something that I wanted to to really make a career out of. But with technology, I think it's a combination of both, really, because there are still things that, because you have to pick. And that's the one thing that I have gotten overwhelmed about before. Like, which area do you want to be in tech? Because like tech it's just huge. Like you can, like you said, earlier on, it can be crypto. It can be like, you can be in finance, you can be in healthcare, you can be in like, tons of subfields within technology. But like, what do you want to do exactly? Like, do you want to do development? Do you want to do project management? Do you want to do, like just like managerial stuff, that kind of stuff? Like, it's just very different, So it's I don't know. It really just, it takes understanding what you, I think, like about technology, and then, tap into that until you can understand how it works, because it's very intimidating, going back to like when you look even at HTML and CSS. I mean, you look at tags, like what is a div to someone who has never seen a div before? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but and that's why I think it can be kind of like off-putting to folks who have never seen it before, is because it's different, and you don't understand it. So it also takes, the kind of the right mindset to want to learn about it, because it is a different way of thought, especially when you get into the actual like object-oriented programming, where it's logic. It doesn't really, like, it makes sense once you understand it, but programming is different. It's not like reading in English. So it's it takes, the right attitude to learn, and to, set aside the time and put in the effort to make it into something that will eventually be, recognizable, that you can really make sense of, discuss about it. And I mean, it's just like it's endless what you can do with technology, and I think that that's the cool thing about it. So in one way, shape, or form, everyone is using some kind of technology, whether they want to really understand how it works, that's really up to them, and it's fine either way. But I mean, we're here because we're the geeks who want to understand it, right? So
Yeah, I mean, at one point we didn't know Jack. Where's the Jack about any of this? I gotta start learning where these buttons are, because I have this, I have a soundboard with 16 buttons. I gotta start to remember where everything is, not hit the wrong one. But I do think that, kind of going back to how I got into it, I only got into it because I wanted to I wanted to integrate my current interests with what I wanted to learn, which was, coding.
Yeah.
And I do that to this day. If I want to learn, more about a specific topic in Python, because I've been using Python basically every day at work at this point, since Anna left, because I have to start automating everything she used to do for me.
Yeah.
So it's been lots and lots of Python lately, and there's so much that I haven't touched on it. But one thing I do want to start doing is building some sort of trading bot for, stocks with Python, and even make a bot that will organize my own personal finances automatically, because I'm really big on using Excel anyway for my job and personally. I love everything about Excel, and I can do a whole episode on Excel, honestly. But I think learning something new is so much easier when you're already bringing in something that you really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I actually have a question for you. So if you had let's say like $1 million budget for a project.
Yeah.
This can be going towards, help from other experts. This can be going towards physically building the hardware. This could be strictly software, anything. If you had
Mhm.
a multi-million-dollar budget, let's say,
Yeah.
what would you do and what would you build?
Oh man. You
It
put
doesn't have
me
to
on the
save the
spot.
world. You can be selfish. It can be something strictly, that will get you, a sparkling water from the fridge. It could be anything. Just, let's hear what your
Well,
dreams tell you should be built.
I think because at this point, another big reason why I'm like fiercely, pursuing my degree and hope to, want to finish that this year is because I want to understand and find like the best way that for me on how to create, another, not just one, but like multiple sources of income. So, I mean, with that kind of budget, like if it came from like an investment or if it was just, self-funded, um, I haven't really thought it through about what it would do. I mean, it definitely has to do with finances. Like we've been talking about, I think recently, I talked to a friend too about stocks and crypto. I've
Oh, the
recently bought
stonks.
the stocks. I've recently bought, some more Bitcoin because I did have, I bought Bitcoin, and it's so funny. Like there was during the boot camp, I went on a Friday evening to a study session with a couple people to a Starbucks. A guy that was there with his friend, saw that we were working on web dev stuff. And, he stopped me and he's like, oh, is that what you guys are doing? Okay, very nice. And then he's like, yeah, well, do you also know about cryptocurrency? And I said, yeah, I've heard about it because that was when like Bitcoin was, all over the news. And he said, yeah, you should buy some. That was in 2017. So I think I bought like $50 worth of it. And then obviously this year, Bitcoin is at like, it reached its highest value. So like my $50 turned into like $350. And then I was like, oh man, like what if, if I had put in more money back then. But people can say that it's speculation. They can say that it's actual valuation, of the coin and all that. But I, I honestly like right now, I don't have like a concrete idea of what a product or like what a project would be. It would definitely be, I would say software, because that's what I want to put, like I would want to put my money on something that would be maintainable, that doesn't really need like the physical, um, like a physical structure, like you said, it could be hardware, software, other things. It would definitely be software where
Sure.
I would be able to, I think, maintain from anywhere that I am. And if I needed help, it can be outsourced as well. It can be, optimized. But I mean, with that kind of money, I don't even know if I have a project in mind that is that big. I probably just have to start out small and then we can like
Mhm. Well, what about something you've already built? Is there anything you've already built
mm,
that struck a chord with you and you're like, you know what, this could be much bigger than it is sitting in my GitHub repo, collecting dust. Is there
yeah.
is if you could, maybe do it yourself with ease or hire
Oh,
other people to expand it and, scale it.
yeah.
Is there anything you've already built that you
Yeah.
would,
Well,
you know,
I think that there is actually something that I did for school a few years ago that was like an image editor. It was all written in C++, so basically you were reading in images and then you were editing them by like overlaying or combining, like the red channel layers of one image with the different, like the blue channel images of another. So to a degree, it was a very watered down version of Photoshop, and I was like, oh my gosh, so this is how they do it. Obviously, they have a very pretty interface. It's a heavy, application, but it's I mean, why not build a competitor to Photoshop? I mean, Adobe is, like cleaning up, like when you say image editing, like what do people use mostly? It's the Adobe suite. So I think that that would be a very cool idea. It was difficult to understand, the requirements in the beginning, and I didn't have the user interface. It was just a simple application, like with an executable that once you ran, it read the pictures and then it It also like give you the output after the the functions ran through the images ran through the functions. But it's something that was very, very neat to do. Like I enjoy that a lot. But I mean, yeah, I mean, why
Wow.
not? Continue on something like that. Like it's a very small idea for now, but I mean, how many startups have begun like that? Like I don't know, Uber, for instance. Like it was a small company at one point. Same thing with Amazon. Yeah, it's just it's very possible if you have like the right plan in mind, in a product that has good use. But yeah, software all the way. That's definitely something that I would put all my efforts into and money.
Nice. All
How about
right.
you?
I as much as I wanted to know the answer from you, I can't even. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have. I've been thinking about, you know, in the near future, sitting down for like a whole week, just taking the week off of work and
Yeah.
totally just doing like a Bill Gates sort of thing where he does those like think weeks where he goes to his
Yeah.
cabin and reads his books and doesn't talk to anybody. I want to do that so bad so that I can actually come up with something because I'm too distracted
Yeah.
by everything. I took like a little break from social media a few years ago where I didn't have anything. And as I know, you don't have any whatsoever anyway, but that's for another episode that I'm going to have to dive into with you about
Hmm.
because there's a lot to unpack there. But
Yeah.
I do think that social media is the reason why I maybe haven't. I mean, I'm not blaming social media entirely. I'm blaming myself as well for being so susceptible to just taking out my phone when I'm bored. But I
Hmm.
did make a subtle note in my little bullet journal saying that I want to just stop using it as much as I do and track screen time and make sure it's under half of what it was last year average per day. So,
Hmm.
you know, this year so far, I've been just every night I've been reading. I haven't been, scrolling on my phone anymore. Um, I'll just plan out my week. Just do like more thought.
Yeah.
Just doing more thought and not letting my phone just, delete these brain cells that are hardly there anyway. Because I need to stay on top of it. I don't want to get Alzheimer's when I'm 45 years old. Um,
Yeah.
so I think the first step in me even thinking about building something cool with an unlimited budget would be for me to take a week off and do a think week.
That
Um,
sounds heavenly,
it
to
might
be
it would have to do with finance. I think
honest. Hmm.
strictly because that's just where my interests have been. For the past few months or so. I mean, I've always been into um, tracking money.
Yeah.
I've been keeping the same Excel budget sheet or not sheet. Uh, God, what's it called? File. The same
Yeah. Yeah.
budget file for over a year. With a new sheet every month and all
Hmm.
these demo sheets for automation ideas. And I think that's where most of my brainstorming goes. It goes like towards money.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
eventually
mean,
I'm
I
going to
think,
integrate Python with it, but I don't think that's my big budget idea unless I come up with something that no one's ever done before. It's going to stay on my local machine, probably not even go on
yeah.
GitHub.
Right. Oh no, yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
And that's the thing, like how much do you even share? Because it's a very interesting, I've read about this quite a bit, like in regards to it doesn't just take like a great idea to really build, something that can be great, that can turn into an actual project or a company, the fact is like the execution is definitely like the biggest factor there because even, with startups, like, you do hear, I can't really think of a concrete example right now, but there are startups that receive a lot of funding and then unfortunately they go under. Why? Because of mismanagement. So it's like the idea is there, and it could have been great, but what happened with the execution? Like, did you just not have the right people there? Like, was it overhyped? Because certain things can be overhyped, but it's hard to, coming up with like the idea alone, but like, how do you really put that plan into action to make sure that it's successful? Like, there are no assurances that it will. Like in business, I think that that's something that you have to know, that it's always a gamble. But um like for me personally, I definitely want to, and I think we probably discussed this before, the podcast, and this whole idea came about. But I want to, come up with like, I want to diversify where I get my, income from, because it's not just about a job. And that's the most amazing thing about tech, is that you can, like, you just have to make the time. And like you said, if it takes a think week and then putting a plan into action, like, you can still have a job. You're taking a few days off of your job and you have that kind, that source of income. But I definitely want to find other ways to ensure that, I'm going to be financially comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, money is going to be, nothing but a consequence, but not really like what I'm aiming like towards. It would be like, something that will come as a result of, the success of what I'm doing. So it's going to be, it's definitely what I have, planned for this year. And, like, you're like moving on forwards. And yeah, just that's the one thing I think I struggle with is the like an idea of what to do, because there are so many things that you can do. But yeah, I mean, I guess that can be like another conversation as well, like what, plans for the future.
Yeah, definitely. There are quite a bit of things that we've already covered today that I don't even want to get too deep into because I want to save them
Right.
for other times. But um, I do want to also not only cover these topics in future episodes, but I
Hmm.
also want to actually, um, I want each of us to, take away something from what we talked about, because,
Yeah.
you know, I think I'm going to find out something maybe you don't. That's probably not as likely, but you're definitely going to find out many things that I didn't know about the certain topic. So
Hmm.
it's going to be very master student sort of vibe for this, probably, since you have the most broad range of education under your belt in terms of um, software development. And I think this is going to be great, actually. One
Hmm.
thing I do want to do also,
Hmm.
um, even with these topics being covered, I actually want to potentially quiz each other.
Ooh,
So
okay.
whatever the topic is, maybe a couple questions that we give each
Yeah.
other, because that way, it gives us a little bit of pressure because now we kind of have to learn a little bit about this in case the other person asks us, um, how many ping pongs fit on a school bus or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, or how you would figure that out. I mean, that's not really a great topic question because there's no topic, but we can also ask each other, speaking of which, interview questions.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it'd be
That's
great
a very
for
good idea.
others to hear not only, other weird interview questions that we've come across because we've
Hmm.
we've both done plenty of interviewing in the
Yeah.
past, but I think it would be pretty valuable for others to see how we came across our answer or what your thinking process should be going along the lines of if you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out an answer and what somebody interviewing is looking for and what they want to hear from their candidates.
Yeah.
The power of
Oh yeah. That's such a
job
good
searching,
idea.
because you can it doesn't matter what the market is, I don't think, for searching for a job if you're not good at interviewing for jobs.
Yeah.
You know, you could have every position open in your city, and it's very, very unlikely that you're gonna, get hired or even get the job that you were originally going for because, you didn't prep, you didn't see the types of questions that these interviewers are looking for. I think it's important to at least prep a little bit and get in the student mindset once again, because interviewing itself is a whole other topic to even learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, being on both ends, because I've been involved in the hiring process with you, for instance, and I mean, like, even like obviously it worked out that, you were selected because we thought that you were the best candidate. You definitely were out of that round of, all the people that we talked to. But I mean, yes, it's kind of, it was I think a lesson for me, because I had some interviewing experience as a candidate before I was put in charge of, of finding candidates. But it just, like you said, like, preparation is key. And even it's fine if you don't do well in, certain interviews. It like, as long as you take something away from that,
Sure.
from the point where you work on your resume and you get some feedback about your resume, to the actual interview process where you're in, like, having that exchange with a recruiter, or HR person. It's, as long as you take something away from it, so it helps you in the next time that you're applying for a job. I think that would be a very good, segment or topic of conversation for us, and to whoever is listening, because, I mean, every company is different, and every experience is going to be different, when you're interviewing. So we could, be happy to cover that too, because there's still, like, more things that I would like to learn. I mean, I feel like my resume is never fully done, because I feel every, like, couple of months or years, people say that resumes are supposed to be structured differently. So, I mean, I think that you honestly should be constantly editing your resume, no matter what level of professional you are. If you are a senior developer with like 20 years of experience, you can still be, enhancing and changing your resume, so
Sure.
kind of matches the trend. But yeah, no, that'd be a very good topic to touch on.
Sure. Well, before we sort of expose all of our other episode ideas coming up very soon, I would actually like to move on and kind of look at some news.
Okay.
So I came across this the other night. So Netflix is going to be introducing a shuffle play button very soon, this year. If I don't know, it depends on when this airs. It still isn't available to everybody, but it will be unveiled pretty soon. What do you think about that? Having a shuffle play button on Netflix?
That's very cool, actually. Because I struggle every evening. I turn to my partner, Sam, and I'm like, I can never find anything to watch.
It seems so simple, right? It seems like such a
Yeah.
simple idea, and it's almost
like,
silly that it wasn't already there if this ends up, working the way it's intended.
right. Yeah. You would think that, I mean, there's the algorithm that powers, the suggestions that they make to you based on previous watch history. But
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I wanted to ask you how you think, roughly how you think this algorithm is structured, because I do have my ideas. I want to hear your take on how you think a shuffle play button on the Netflix platform was built. Just hearing about it, this is your first time hearing about it, no?
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't know that they were going to release that. So I think.
And if you were to build it, how would you build it? Essentially, is kind of what I'm going for you.
Oh man, there are like a couple of requirements that already come into mind because like I think for, it depends on the time of the day, maybe the month, because if you're talking about like holidays, obviously you can shuffle it with based on what other things that they watched this time last year with like new suggestions, for this year, taking into account holiday movies and that kind of stuff. Um, but I mean, the genres have like it has to be, something that the person has shown interest in because I like rom-coms, I like comedies, I like action movies, so
There it is.
yeah, so I think that, obviously it has to take into account what has been watched before. But yeah, I mean, I always find myself in the Netflix black hole where I can never settle for something based on even the suggestions that they're making, So
Sure.
and even for like other shows that I would like to rewatch, like I have to actually go into the search feature, find it because it's buried so deep into whatever genre, tab they have it on there that I would like their algorithm to be a little smarter.
Right.
and put that right on the top of the page, so I don't have to search that much for it. But I don't know. That's a good question. I would like to read a little more about into it. What else do you know about it?
Well, I do know that Python powers a lot of Netflix.
Okay.
Python pretty much touches every single corner of Netflix. So,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, not to get really too deep into syntax or anything whatsoever, but I'm sure there's so many like libraries imported into it just to get this simple function to even work. Because before this was introduced, I can't really think of any other place on Netflix where you would need a random number generator.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that. I mean, I'm sure like a few corners here and there utilize it, but I think that this is a much more sophisticated random number generator where it has to, like you said, take into account the time of the year, possibly even the region in which the user is in the world.
Yeah.
Also, just the demographics of the actual region too, because I think it helps suggesting other things that people like you have been watching in the area. But it kind of goes into this thing where how much are they even collecting anyway? We all know that they're collecting everything, but
Right.
if this shuffle play is too good, then that just kind of is just another thing being shown to us that's almost too good to be a coincidence. With the ads coming up where you mention, fancy slippers, you get a nice ad in 5 minutes for some fancy slippers that you can buy right now. So I think this is the skeptic in me, but I think the shuffle play button isn't going to be as advanced as it could be. I think it's going to be pretty simple, just so it doesn't scare us, because we all know that they're capable of scaring us, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, who knows? It could be literally as simple as randomly picking an index in the entire list of films available to that specific country and just playing it or show. So who knows? But it is kind of risky doing that without any parameters beforehand, because this could be, someone in like elementary school and Netflix and, no restrictions on it, maybe because they're on their parents' account, and just get recommended, some gory action movie. So there's I don't know, I could see a couple things wrong with it down the line, or even in like this demo phase that it might be in right now. That actually makes me wonder. So I know with all of the new iOS updates, I get, all of the God, what are they called? I guess they're demos, right? Before they're rolled out to everybody, I get the
Beta?
updates. Betas, thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
so like whenever there's like the next gen iOS, I enroll for the betas every time automatically, just so I can try it out myself too. And it allows you to report any bugs. So I like to search for bugs too on it. So I'll hit back and forth multiple times going from one app to another, or some sort of function where you're adding a new contact and you decide not to add the new contact and change the name. There's just, all those silly little logical steps that maybe weren't thought of during this new update, or maybe had old code in it. Being enrolled into these getting the betas, it allows you to actually report the bugs, and then they can potentially go ahead and fix it. So I'm interested to see if Netflix is going to enroll this like small group of people who may be part of Netflix developer community or whatever, where they get to try it out themselves as users, kind of like just any sort of experiment.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look into that later. I'm gonna see if I can get it early, because I would like to try it.
Yeah, that's very cool, because I don't know if you know, but with Netflix, there is like a page where you can go into where you can request titles, like movies or shows that you would like to see in the Netflix library. Yeah. I can't remember what it is. I mean, if you Google it, it should be. It's like a Netflix suggestion board or form or of some kind. And I've done it before. I can't remember what it was that I asked. There was like a couple of movies that I would have liked to see, because I think that they just, end up throwing that into a pool. And you know how their inventory is constantly changing. They have contracts with rights to, to stream all that stuff. So it could be that, one day it will show up on there. But
so you can do 3 at a time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Wow.
Mind blown.
It's interesting. You can do 3. It says request TV shows or movies. And then there's, what are they called? A form box. A form? Is it just a form? It's just a form.
I think it's just a form.
3 text fields, where you put in 3 different title suggestions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I mean, it shows that they want to see, like, they want to hear, from customers about what they would like to watch, because I mean, what is their ultimate goal? They want us to be on Netflix, like the whole day, probably, if if they could have control over that. I mean, they kind of do already by having that autoplay feature, like when The Office was still on there, I was still watching episode after episode for like hours, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So they're already achieving that in a very subtle way. But I don't know, the shuffle feature is interesting. Hopefully, I think it just enhances the experience all around, because I think, I'm definitely not alone in this. Everyone is in like a streaming service overload at this point, because every channel on television has decided to come out with their own streaming service. So if you want to watch The Office now, for instance, it's no longer on Netflix. You have to get Peacock, which is the CBS service. And it kind of sucks, because now you need a different subscription for each one of those. So if I go to Netflix and I can't find something I like to watch, then I go to Hulu or HBO or Prime, so I mean, there's a lot of overlap between the titles that they offer anyway. So you can find something on Netflix that is also on Prime and Hulu. So maybe, with the shuffle feature will be, like a nice, I think, detail to add. But I think that they probably need to evaluate their inventory more than anything, because I think now it's even more competitive. But how else can they kind of like stay above the ahead of the competition, because I mean, they are the original, the OG streaming service. It's definitely Netflix.
Right. I mean,
But
even before it was a streaming service, it was it was essentially
DVD, right?
a
Yeah.
blockbuster through the mail.
Yeah, exactly. So
Good times.
I mean, it's very interesting, like now on the title page, they have that one, what is it, top 10 trending titles, like they have that like numbers 1 through 10 or whatever in your country or your region and all that. So, I mean, I've definitely found myself watching some of those because, it's like the highest ranked titles that have been shown in the country or something or other. So
I think that'll be
they
more popular than the shuffle anyway. I think that's going to stay. I think the shuffle players are going to be pretty risky people.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the equivalent of if you went to a restaurant, right? And you said, "Oh, chef's choice." If that was on the menu, just like whatever the chef makes. Like, you got to be a pretty adventurous person to do that. I'd have to think about that because I like to be in my safe bubble at all times, Anna.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that it's very interesting how, I mean, they're always looking for ways to influence, what we watch. It's seen, that it gives you choices, but they definitely point their finger at what they want you to watch. That's something that I'm certain of. So I don't know, maybe the shuffle idea would be nice because I would like to cut my time, when picking finding a selection rather than being like 2 hours into looking for a movie and then another 2 hours to watch the movie. So like that's a lot of time to waste. But no, it's cool. It's really not, I'm complaining about it, but it's not like a huge issue. It would be nice to see what it's like, and then I'll definitely try it out.
Absolutely. Well, hey, with that, I think, maybe we can wrap it up now. I think it's been a great first episode.
It has.
Definitely. I think everyone can anticipate that the next episodes we will be mainly focusing around, certain topics. This one, I had the idea of having a trailer for the show. But after thinking about it, I kind of didn't really like the idea of having a trailer. I would rather have an episode 0, if you will, where you get a whole episode, you get to feel the vibe of everybody, and what will be discussed. See if you like the hosts or not. All that jazz. So I think this will be our episode 0. What do you think, Anna?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was a very good intro, so people have a glimpse of our backgrounds, and we were able to share more about us, personally, and then we can focus on, like the titles from now on. So I think that's a good name for this one, our episode pilot.
Nice.
More to come.
More to come for sure. Well, anyway, this has been TechHeads. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all in 1 week. Bye.